The NFL Network had a top 100 list of top 100 players. Russell Wilson ranked below Dak Prescott and Matt Ryan as a quarterback, and Derek Carr. Are you out of your mind?
Is Russell Wilson the most underrated quarterback in the NFL? Well, to some fans, this question may sound preposterous, but ask any Seahawks fan and you'll likely get a different response. Coming out of college, many teams and scouts had simply written off the quarterback due to his lack of size. Despite setting a single-season college football record for passing efficiency, Wilson still fell into the third round of the NFL draft. This was just a month after the Seahawks gave quarterback Matt Flynn a 3-year, $26 million contract. And while Russell isn't the only quarterback to be overlooked, the fact that throughout 8 seasons in the NFL, he has never had an MVP vote or a first-team All-Pro selection is preposterous in itself. Russ, throughout his football career, has had to deal with simply being passed over as a prospect to being probably one of the most underrated players in the NFL. And many will question the validity of this argument, as how can one be underrated when lately they're always in the conversation as a top 5 quarterback? Well, in this video, we're going to take a look at the career of Russell Wilson and see how he matches up against other top-level quarterbacks in the league. But before we begin, guys, welcome to my channel. I primarily make NFL content in the form of news, stories, and analysis, so if you enjoy the NFL as much as I do, take the time to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Anyways, let's get back to the video. In college, Russ spent 3 seasons at NC State from 2008 to 2010. He was also a baseball prospect and would eventually be drafted by the Colorado Rockies in June of 2010. But his focus was primarily on football, and during his time at NC State, he accumulated 76 touchdown passes against 26 interceptions. However, heading into the 2011 season, NC State head coach Tom O'Brien chose to go with Mike Lennon as quarterback, and this ultimately led Russell Wilson to transfer out of NC State to Wisconsin, where he joined the Badgers in the Big Ten Conference. In his commencement speech at Wisconsin's graduation, Wilson recounted the conversation he had with his head coach prior to him returning for a senior season at NC State. The summer before my senior year of college, I'm playing minor league baseball. I called my football coach at NC State and said, "Hey coach, I'd like to come back for my senior year." He told me I wasn't coming back. He said, "Listen son, you're never going to play in the NFL. You're too small. There's no chance. You've got no shot. Give it up." Of course, I'm on this side of the phone saying, "So you're telling me I'm not coming back to NC State? I won't see the field?" He said, "No son, you won't see the field." Now imagine that, playing a sport throughout your entire childhood with dreams of hopefully one day making it to the big stage, and your coach, in a few short words, simply squashes your dreams. While many could have taken those words and given up, Russ was someone who would be fueled by them. And in the 2011 season, with the addition of Russ, the Badgers improved immensely, finishing the season 11-3 and defeating Michigan State by a score of 42-39 in the Big Ten championship game. That season, Wilson threw for 3,175 yards, completing 33 touchdowns with 4 interceptions, and set the single-season FBS record for passing efficiency. Heading to the 2012 NFL Draft, Russell was projected by analysts and scouts to be a middle-round pick. This was mainly due to his size and stature, which many commented on leading up to the draft. Former NFL quarterback and director of IMG Football Academy, Chris Winkie, stated that if he was 6'5", he'd probably be the #1 pick in the draft. And former ESPN analyst John Gruden would say of Wilson, "The only issue with Russell Wilson is his height. This might be the reason he's not picked in the first couple rounds." And as each round passed, there would be a total of 5 quarterbacks selected ahead of Russ, as he was eventually selected with the 75th pick by the Seattle Seahawks. And at the time, many criticized Seattle for drafting Wilson.
Russell Wilson to me is negligible. You put him on the bench, what's he going to do? Fine, great. And then the rest of the draft was a bunch of no-names. I actually don't think Russell Wilson makes sense when you spend a lot of money on Matt Flynn to be your quarterback. Why would you draft a backup quarterback in the 3rd round the same season? Look, he might be a good player, I'm fine. I don't know that many 5'11" quarterbacks who have succeeded in the NFL.
During preseason of his rookie year, it was announced that Russell would be competing for the starting position against Tavares Jackson and Matt Flynn. And on August 11, 2012, Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll named Russ as a starting quarterback. In his rookie season, Russ led the team to an 11-5 record, an improvement from the 7-9 record the year before, and this marked Seattle's first winning season since 2007. The team went undefeated at home, and a large reason for that was the emergence of the Legion of Boom. However, Russ's scrambling ability and ability to extend plays had just as big of an impact on that Seattle team. By season's end, Wilson in his rookie campaign amassed a total of 3,118 passing yards, along with 26 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, while rushing for 489 yards, including 4 rushing TDs. While he had a fantastic rookie year, Redskins quarterback RG3 simply had a better season and ultimately won the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. In Russ's sophomore season, he opened the 2013 campaign with a 4-0 start and also had a 7-game winning streak during that season, before finishing the campaign with a league-leading 13-3 record. Wilson finished the season with 26 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions, and a passer rating of 101.2, becoming the first quarterback in the Super Bowl era to post a 100-plus passer rating in each of his first 2 seasons. In the playoffs, the former Wisconsin quarterback led the Seahawks with wins versus the Saints and the 49ers, advancing his team to the Super Bowl where they faced the Denver Broncos. In the Super Bowl, Wilson threw for 206 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions with a 123.1 passer rating, as the Seahawks defeated the Broncos by a score of 43-8. While the defense received most of the credit, with linebacker Malcolm Smith earning MVP honors, Russ still had a fantastic game where he was very efficient and made key plays at pivotal moments in the game. The following season, Russ would lead the 12-4 Seahawks again to the Super Bowl after defeating the Carolina Panthers in the divisional round and leading his team to an emotional comeback win in the NFC Championship game versus the Green Bay Packers. This was a game where Russ had been struggling mightily, throwing 4 interceptions with 3 in the first half and having his team trailing 16-0 at halftime. However, in one of the most defining moments of Wilson's career, he simply rallied his team and steered them to an incredible 28-22 overtime win. Now, in their second straight Super Bowl, they faced Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. This was a game in which Russ had the Seahawks with a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. However, with just 2 minutes remaining, the Patriots took a 28-24 lead. Wilson on his last drive led the Seahawks to the Patriots' 1-yard line with 25 seconds left, but a Malcolm Butler interception sealed the victory for the Patriots. This was a heartbreaking loss for Russ and the Seahawks, one in which many still believe today that they have not recovered from. But after 3 seasons in the NFL, Russell has appeared in 2 Super Bowls and has 1 Super Bowl title under his belt. Now, over the course of the next 5 years, Russ led the Seattle Seahawks as playoff contenders in almost every season except for 2017, when they missed out on the playoffs going 9-7 that campaign. During this period, the team was going through a transition. With many injuries to the defense, we would see many key players leave Seattle through free agency and retirement, most notably Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Michael Bennett, Earl Thomas, and wide receiver Doug Baldwin. Now, around the same time, the team did not do much to assist Wilson, as he had one of the worst offensive lines in the league with no run game. In the 2017 season, with the decline of running back Thomas Rawls and the weight issues of Eddie Lacy, Russ was actually the team's rushing yards and rushing touchdowns leader that season. He was literally doing everything by himself, and it was remarkable that the team even had a winning record. But in the last couple of years, the team has slowly given Russell some more pieces on the offensive side through Will Dissly, DK Metcalf, Chris Carson, and Rashad Penny. Now, let's take a look at some of Russell Wilson's career stats and compare them to other top-tier quarterbacks. In his 8 seasons with the Seattle Seahawks, Russ has a record of 86-41-1, leading his team to the playoffs all but 1 season in 2017. During this time, he has never missed a single game and has been selected to a total of 7 Pro Bowls. On top of that, no other quarterback besides Tom Brady and Russell Wilson have won more regular season games in their first 8 seasons in the NFL. And lastly, Wilson is one of 2 quarterbacks with a career passer rating of over 100, second behind only to Aaron Rodgers. Now, let that sink in for a second. He's been a model of consistency throughout his NFL career, and with all that being said, it's amazing how he has never won a league MVP in his 8 years. And this is in no way saying that Russ should have won in any of those 8 years, but to never even receive a single vote for consideration is just simply blasphemous. Russ's best chance was probably in the 2019 season, where he looked to be the leading frontrunner for the award midway through the season. However, in the end, he would be beaten by Lamar Jackson, who won the award unanimously and deservingly. Recently, Pro Football Focus came out with their all-decade team Top 101, and this included all NFL players from every position. Russell Wilson was ranked 33rd overall, with 5 quarterbacks taken ahead of him. However, of those 5 quarterbacks, I think there are arguments to be made that Russ may have been a better quarterback during this period than both Drew Brees and Matt Ryan. When comparing Drew and Russell's stats, Drew clearly passes Wilson in almost every key quarterback metric. However, it has to be noted that the Saints under head coach Sean Payton were an offensive-minded team that primarily threw the ball into Brees. It wasn't until maybe the last couple seasons where the Saints began running the ball a bit more on the offense, and here you can clearly see through the number of pass attempts from each quarterback during that time. On top of that, let's take a look at another key stat for these 2 quarterbacks, and probably one of the most important, wins and losses. In the past decade, Drew has had 4 losing seasons compared to Russ's 0. In the playoffs, Brees has led the Saints to 4 playoff wins. Russ, on the other hand, has 9 playoff wins with a playoff record of 9-6. While Russell may have benefited from one of the league's best defenses early on, the latter half of his career has seen Russ clearly take control of this team. He has managed single-handedly to lead the Seahawks to become perennial playoff contenders almost every season, and that's not even taking into consideration his ability to escape the pocket and gain yards with his legs. The next quarterback who I think was unjustly chosen ahead of Wilson on this list would be Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan. And like Brees, Ryan's had 4 losing seasons in this past decade. On top of that, Matt's only had 2 seasons where he was able to achieve a passer rating of over 100, compared to Russ's career rating of 101.2. And while the Falcons quarterback had a fantastic 2016 MVP season where he was a field goal away from a Super Bowl title, Wilson's already been there twice and already has 1 title under his belt. He's never had a Julio Jones, Roddy White, or even a Hall of Fame tight end in Tony Gonzalez. He just has that unique ability to work with what he has in front of him, whether it be in the form of scrambling around, breaking tackles, to throwing insane balls to his wide receivers. Russell Wilson is one quarterback defenses have yet to figure out. There is simply no answer for him. And yet, we've constantly heard ridiculous rumblings within the media of either Russ swapping teams with Baker or Cam going to Seattle during this past free agency. It just amazes me the level of disrespect Russ has had to endure with this franchise. And finally, while we hear stories of greatness from the likes of Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, and Aaron Rodgers, and even more recently Patrick Mahomes, I do want to compare Russ's stats to those greats. And in no way am I saying that Russ is an all-time great. He simply doesn't have the MVPs, years in the league, first-team All-Pro selections, and lastly, I just don't see his career lasting as long as those of pocket passers. He's clearly taken far more hits on his body, and those will start to reflect more in Russell's latter half of his career. But in any event, take a look at Russell's touchdown to interception ratio in his first 8 seasons. He's right up there with Aaron Rodgers when we remove Aaron's first 3 seasons as a backup for Brett Favre. And while throwing less touchdown passes than Peyton Manning, he's thrown far much less interceptions. Clearly, this should show you Russell Wilson's first 8 years in the NFL have been extraordinary. And while he may not have the arm of Patrick Mahomes or the jaw-dropping flashiness of Lamar Jackson, Russell definitely needs to be in the conversation as the best quarterback in the NFL. Throughout his NFL career, one thing many analysts have unanimously agreed upon is the fact that Russell Wilson is a quarterback who simply does more with less.